Hey guys, Magnus Robert here, bringing you another video on another dead, Walking Dead COVID episode character. Yeah, that's right. It's a big one. We're looking at Daryl's crazy ex, Leah Shaw, adopted mother to Matthew, original owner of Dog, and of course, lover to Daryl. Leah is of course female. She is played by Lynn Collins. She is early to mid-40s and first appeared in Find Me. Before the outbreak, Leah didn't really have a family growing up, or at least not one of the good kind. And when she was an adult, she fought in Afghanistan for the US military, alongside the other Reapers. Here she made a sister connection with an unknown woman, aka Matthew's real mother, swearing to always stick together and fight together. After returning from the war, she decided to join Pope's mercenary group, touring the world and doing others' dirty work for them. She grew a strong bond with her brothers in arms, especially Michael Turner. Matthew's mother sadly died in childbirth, and after she died, Leah decided to adopt her son, who was named Matthew. At some point, she found Dog's mother and also took her in. When the outbreak began, Leah was with her squad and they were in a town when the bombings began by the government. They held up in a church, and when the fires cleared, the church was untouched by the fire and all the Reapers were unharmed. From this day, Pope declared them all chosen by God. At some point, Leah and Brandon cleared out a hospital in Rockport and also grew a close bond. After a year of being with her group, their base was attacked by walkers, and Leah, Matthew, and Dog's mother were separated from the core group. Leah soon found that Matthew was bitten, so had to put him down. The same night, Dog's mother gave birth to Dog. Dog's mother eventually died too at some point, and eventually Leah began living in a cabin in the Virginia woods. In Season 10, in a flashback after Daryl breaks into her cabin, Leah comes out armed with a shotgun asking who he is. Daryl says he's leaving, but she doesn't let him. She ties up Daryl and drags the zombie in. She catches Daryl pulling at his ropes and puts a shotgun to him again. He asks if she's going to kill him, and she asks, should I? After that, she wants to know who he is and why he's here, and he tells her he's just trying to help. She points out he's tied up with a gun to his head, so she don't need no help. She puts the shotgun away and cuts him free and tells him to go, but refuses to tell him her name. 6 months later, Daryl returns Dog to Leah, and she thanks him for bringing Dog back. She points out Dog likes Daryl, and he asks Dog's name. Leah seems a bit offended that Daryl doesn't like the name Dog for the dog. Leah asks about Daryl's cuts and tells him to be careful out there. 8 months after that, Leah was in the woods when she sees Daryl again. She kills some walkers and calls them over, where they awkwardly hide in a tree. He tells her to stay away from his camp, and Leah storms off, telling him her name. 3 months later, Daryl throws an apology fish at her door, and she returns it to him, telling him she can catch her own fish. She then tells him she wants to be left alone. He says he won't bother. She says she won't come around, already arguing like a married couple. Leah says she's going to go, but she doesn't really, and Daryl tells her he gets being alone out here. She notices his frost nip and invites him back to her cabin. Later that night, Leah breaks the picture frame of her and Matthew, and Leah notes it's Matthew's birthday today as she cries and explains her and Matthew's story. She puts her stuff back in the floorboards and heads to the window to cry and talk some more, and she asks Daryl why he's out here, and he tells her he's looking for his brother's body. She notes he's always the hero. Over the next few months, Daryl and Leah fish together before Daryl leaves to look for Rick some more. He returns though, and Leah and Daryl stare at an eclipse together. They eventually, presumably, have sex or whatever Daryl does, and they spend the next few months together as a couple. 10 months after that, though, they have a cold and awkward meal, as previously Daryl had decided to go to look for Rick some more. Leah won't talk to Daryl at first, but when he adds it's only for a few days, Leah asks where does he belong, out there looking for Rick or with her in the cabin. Leah makes Daryl choose, and Daryl decides to leave to look for Rick. In between this flashback and the present day, Leah was found by the Reapers and brought into Meridian, but for some reason she left Dog. She may have also been involved on the attack on Meridian as well. It might have been before they had Meridian, who knows. In Season 11, Leah ambushes Maggie and Co. on the road at Meridian with the other Reapers, and she may have killed Roy. She and the Reapers follow the group into the woods and eventually she sees Dog, Carver and Daryl having a fight. Leah walks up to help in the fight, but Daryl throws a knife and legs it. In the morning, she stalks Daryl and manages to find Dog all on his own. Daryl finds them both and, not knowing who she is, tells him to let Dog go, and he takes out a knife. She takes her mask off and declares she didn't think he'd see him again. Leah asks who the others he was with were, and she pulls a shotgun on him again. Daryl gives his lies and tries to take Dog, but soon Carver and Powell surround him and capture him. Leah and the others drag Daryl into Meridian, as she likely explains who he is to Pope. Daryl explains he came back and looked for her, and Leah explains these are her family now. Daryl lies some more and says he's, alone. She remarks he's filthy and grabs a wet rag, but she uses it to knock him out with. Leah oversees and directs Daryl's waterboarding, but quickly puts a stop to it. She tells him he needs to talk, and Daryl gives some more little lies, but Leah doesn't buy it. She watches him be dragged back to his cell. She soon visits him again and tells him he needs to tell the truth. He tells her he's never lied. Brandon comes and tells Leah about Bossy arriving back, but doesn't answer for Turner. She heads in and sees Turner's body and listens to Pope declare that God is angry as she cries over her fallen brother. Leah goes back to the cell to talk about Turner and how she's torn up about his death. Daryl is shocked that she was a mercenary, and Leah brings up him leaving. He tells her he got scared of letting go. Leah tells her they would never have worked as a couple and tells him she cares about him and doesn't want him to die. Daryl gives some small truths in his lies, but still lies, saying that they have 24 fighters on the way. Leah goes to leave and he asks when will he meet Pope, and Leah tells him soon. Leah meets with Pope and tells him about Daryl, saying he was hard to break, but she broke him, and she relays the info she was told by Daryl. She vouches for him to stay, but Pope is quiet. Pope is outraged that she is wasting time with her old boyfriend. Leah tells Pope that pain and death don't scare Daryl, so he'd be great for the group. Pope points out Daryl loves Leah, and Leah admits he did mean something to her at one point, but she chooses this family first and foremost. He tells Leah that he believes in her more than the others. Leah returns to Daryl and tells him he is to meet Pope, but as she unties him, she notices the door is locked. She bangs on the door when suddenly the cabin is set on fire. Leah coughs a lot, and Daryl manages to break them out of the cabin. He pushes her out first. As soon as she's out, he joins her. She then just joins her people like nothing happened and chants as Daryl is welcomed into the group. She sits at the camp with the others at night and eats, and when Pope questions Bossy harshly, she tells Pope to lay off him. Pope points out how Daryl saved her first, and eventually Pope throws Bossy in the fire and Leah's all shocked and sad again. A day later, Leah is present for Frost's torture and hands Daryl a knife as he takes over. She watches as he tortures Frost and takes a finger, but manages to get the location out of him. Leah is then instructed by Pope to take a squad to check it out. Leah approaches the house with the Reapers and gives out orders. Carver objects as he doesn't think Daryl will have his back, but Leah tells him she will. They walk to the house, storm it, but find nothing. Leah tells some of them to search the street as she looks around. Daryl and Carver argue and Leah puts a stop to it, telling them to knock it off. She tells Daryl to knock it off with Carver after sending him upstairs. Leah interrupts Carver and Daryl argue some more, telling them that they're going. Carver is still suspicious of Daryl, but Leah points out how Carver left her in that goddamn cavern. Carver tells her everything is a test and points that Daryl doesn't give a shit about them. Daryl admits he does not care about the Reapers, but he does care about Leah. Leah tells Carver they need to move on, but he spots the basement, but nothing is there. Leah returns with the others empty-handed, but Pope thinks it's fine, telling Leah he got a lot of information from Frost. The next day, Anchetta and Washington return, finding nothing whilst they were out. Pope gets angry at them, and Leah tries to calm him down before he has an outburst. Leah tells Pope they were following her orders, and Pope lampoons her for trying to be noble. They have a face-off, but Pope just tells her to take Daryl and find the enemy. Leah and Daryl head out to search for the enemy. They talk about Maggie, and Leah talks about Pope, defending him slightly, saying he is like a father to her. They head into the woods and see a building, but Leah says the patrol would have been through there already. Daryl, though, he sees some tracks, and there's some rumbling in the bushes. So they point their weapons at the bush, and a man emerges. Leah questions how he avoided the patrol, but he has no clue what she's yapping about. He mentions his wife and son, and Daryl gets him to show them their little base. Leah radios Pope, asking what to do with the man and his family, and Pope replies, kill him. The man takes them to his little house Inside, Leah sees the man's wife and son and has pity for them, telling the man to take his son and run. The boy and his father leave and the woman asks to be put down. Leah, though, can't quite do it, so Daryl does it instead. Leah tells Daryl she's going to tell Pope that he killed the family, because it will be good for him. They're then radioed to go back to base ASAP. When they get back to base, Leah and the others watch as the zombies mull around, strangely. Daryl tells Pope that he's seen it before and suggests leading them away. Pope, though, sends Paul Wells. Wells radios in saying he's got some trouble, but Leah eventually radios him with no response. Pope has a little meeting and Pope declares that Wells is dead. Leah denies it, but Pope thinks Maggie killed him. Leah is disgusted that Pope sent Wells out knowing or thinking that Maggie was out there, but Pope thinks it was all in God's plan. Pope points out she has been saying a lot since Daryl showed up, but Leah stands down. Pope then promises them all that they won't escape. The enemy won't escape, that is. Leah then listens to Pope and Daryl talk, looking a bit stressed about this conversation. At night, the zombies come back and Pope notes that Maggie has turned the dead against them. The mines go off and Leah watches the zombies blow up. Pope asks Leah what's on her mind and she tells him she's thinking of all they've lost. Pope then goes on a bit of a ramble. Daryl goes and comes back where Pope tells Leah to ready the Hawatcha. She helps to set up the Hawatcha with Anchetta, and Daryl apologizes for Wells and asks Leah if she believes in the whole God stuff, and they talk about what it'd be like if they never left the cabin, and she tells Pope they're ready to fire the Hawatcha. Daryl, though, he comes clean, telling Leah the truth about Maggie and co being his people, about how he's lied, and Leah is upset that he lied and a bit confused. Daryl offers her to come with him, but Pope interrupts. He asks what they were chatting about, and Leah just says family. A truck suddenly brings down the walls of the community and Pope instructs the Hawatcha to be fired into the courtyard. Leah objects as their people are down there. Pope doesn't listen to her and Anchetta is forced to light it up. Daryl takes out some knives to attack Pope, but Leah instead stabs him in the throat. Daryl kills Anchetta and stops the Hawatcha, and Leah follows Pope and kills him. Daryl tries to get Leah to come with him, but after seeing Anchetta dead, she instead radios her brothers to tell them that Daryl murdered Pope and was with the enemy. Leah tells him that her family matters most, so he leaves. Brandon and Boone come to the roof and Brandon is pissed, telling Leah he told her not to trust Daryl. But she tells him to get the gates closed first. She then, after that happens, she readies the Hawatcha once more. After calling her men back, she fires the Hawatcha into the courtyard. In the morning, Leah searches Meridian and finds Austin dead. She is upset, declaring no more as she continues to search. Later on, she's radioed by Daryl and asks to do a trade with Carver, but secretly Leah sets up Jensen on the roof with a sniper. They arrive to the meet point and Leah demands to see Carver. Daryl tells them to put down their weapons and Leah asks what's the offering. He tells them to head north or he'll kill Carver. Leah has no trust for this, though, and calls in Jensen to fire a warning shot. She demands everyone out. Leah threatens Maggie's life for Carver's release, so Daryl releases him. After Elijah tries to kill Carver, Leah shouts for him to stop and then tries to call Jensen to kill Elijah. Carver goes to kick him and is shot in the leg. Leah is like, Jensen, what the hell? But receives Gabriel on the other end instead. He tells her to back off and Leah asks about Daryl's deal. He's cool with her leaving, but Maggie is less forgiving. Leah thinks that she could take a few of them out before Gabriel kills them all, so they agree to walk away, and, Maggie and co can have the town. She instructs Boone and Washington to put their weapons down, and they do, and sadly has to agree that Carver can't go with them. She tries to argue, but there's no winning. She tells Carver she'll see him soon and leaves with her other two brothers. As she walks away though, Maggie has a change of heart and shoots Boone and Washington and her. Leah is able to run away though, however all of her family are not. Leah, injured, upset and destroyed, she holds up in a wreckage, holding her bloody wound. Daryl finds her and tells her he's sorry it ended like this, and then tells her to go before he changes his mind. Months later, Leah patched herself up and began living on her own. She found a shipment with the Commonwealth troopers and killed them all. A female trooper tried to crawl away, but Leah slits her throat. One night at her camp, she notices the soldiers approaching and hides to make a little trap. She shoots a couple soldiers in the feet, and Lance comes out though and asks to talk. Leah tells him to talk fast, and he offers her the job to kill Maggie. In the morning, Leah prepares for her attack, and Lance talks to her. She then notices the locust flying overhead. Lance asks to be informed when she's dead, handing Leah a radio. Leah attacks the hilltop with the Commonwealth soldiers, but some are blown up by bombs that have been laid. She heads out the building and sees Marco, so shoots him in the head. She shoots at Maggie and the rest, who flee. Lance radios Leah asking what the hell was that, and Leah tells him that she drew the people out and she's doing it her way now. Leah tracks Maggie into the woods and Maggie shoots at her. Leah tries to run and Maggie is able to shoot her. However, despite this, Leah is able to dupe Maggie and knocks her out. Leah drags Maggie all the way to her old cabin and ties her to a chair. As Maggie wakes, Leah holds her at gunpoint, telling her she's waited for this for a while. Maggie deduces that Leah wants her to suffer, and Maggie tells her it won't bring her pain away, but Leah thinks it just might. Leah then admits she's going to kill everyone Maggie loves. Maggie is like, that's even, I guess, and Maggie admits she's killed the Reapers because it's what she wanted. Maggie encourages her to kill her. Do it now! And Maggie is able to break free. She grabs the gun and they tussle over it before Maggie smacks it out of her hand. Maggie slices Leah with a knife and Leah throws Maggie to the ground and takes out her knife. They fight some more until Maggie is on the ground and Leah is over her. Leah strangles her, punches her in the face before taking out a knife to stab her. Leah tries to lower the knife as Maggie pushes back. The knife is so close. And then this suddenly happens to Leah Shaw. Shot in the head by Daryl Dixon. Lover and killer. Oof. Leah's body is likely just left there to rot in the cabin where we met her. Poetic, I guess. R.I.P. Leah Shaw. Leah was a complicated character. She clearly had empathy for those less unfortunate and didn't want to kill innocents. She didn't like her brothers being sent blindly into battle, so she killed Pope because of that. And her revenge against Maggie is totally understandable. Maggie went back on her word and gunned down her last two brothers who were unarmed and not a threat. I found Leah and Daryl's relationship a bit odd, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm not the biggest fan of Leah overall, really. But I can appreciate her somewhat. You know, she lost everything she cared about. And it drove her to revenge and spite, and that ultimately was her biggest downfall. Tell me your thoughts on Leah Shaw. I know this was a big one, but I wanted to capture her fully, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.